Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So Bomac, I guess this is maybe like one of the first interviews that we've seen from Bomac. I know he's had one other interview that we saw since he's been back over in the States, but one of the first ones where he's really talked in depth about anything substantial. And he talked a little bit about Errol Spence and how he might perform at 154 pounds, Jay. And I found it to be very interesting because it's kind of similar to some of the things that we've said in the past. Now, he said, I think it was Sean Vettel or whatever his name is from Fight Height that asked him,
from Fight Height, yeah.
Can Errol perform better at 154? He said, I don't know, but Errol needs to, do some things. And it's like he finally kind of beat around the bush a little bit, Jay, but finally got to the point where he said that Errol essentially needs to work on his mistakes. And that is what we've been preaching for a while. Now, I think a lot has been made of Errol Spence's mistakes, Jay. I've said this in the past that Errol has made some of these. So a lot of people like to point to the Ugas fight, right? And a lot of what you saw in the Ugas fight had to do with just being rusty and not being in the ring for several months. And I think that's also something that attributed to the poor performance of Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. Now, Crawford was going to win that fight. I truly do believe that. But at the same time, that was a somewhat rusty Spence in there. So I've seen Errol make some of those mistakes in the past against Mikey Garcia, but Errol actually had some counters to the mistakes. Like literally when Errol would duck down to his right, for whatever reason against Terence Crawford, he just stayed there. Against Mikey Garcia, you would see him roll out of it and or duck up under shots that came from Mikey Garcia. So he would crouch down, either roll out of it or roll up under it when Mikey tried to throw those same types of shots. For whatever reason, he didn't do it with Terence Crawford. But
he stayed like a statue.
Exactly. But I agree with Bomac, and that's the reason why we had said for so long that if I'm Errol Spence, I probably take 2 or 3 weeks off and I'm back in the lab. I'm not necessarily saying that you need to be in there sparring or things of that nature, but you're definitely in there working on some of your mistakes. And maybe you are doing some light sparring in order to improve on those mistakes. We know the things that Errol's done well. And Bomac mentioned this. He said, go look at the things that you did well and go look at the things that you may have not done well or things that were taken away from you. And I agree with that. Errol's offense has always been predicated off the jab. When Terence started to parry the jab and jab with them and he started to find success there, it threw Errol completely off. And I've seen Errol set up his attack when the jab was taken away from him because he did it against Kell Brook. And so it was just shocking to me how ineffective he was when the jab was taken away. I don't know if that was rust. I don't know if it was something else. But I do agree with Bomac that, and people have heard us say this, right? We thought that Errol looked off. We thought that Errol looked drained, but we still gave Terence Crawford the credit that he deserved because I thought Terence Crawford was going to beat him anyway. But when you look at just based off of the performance, going into the fight, I thought Errol was going to win. I was slightly leaning towards Errol, but I feel that Errol has an opportunity, man, to improve on what we saw that night. And, he has to get back in the gym and be consistent in working on those things that went awry in the fight with Terence Crawford. So, Jay, what are your thoughts on what Bomac shared in regards to Errol Spence and how he might perform against Terence Crawford at 154? Or maybe because he did also allude to the fact that, if he runs again into a Terence Crawford, regardless, he's going to have problems. And he also talked about adjusting his style a little bit. But, Jay, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's right. Spence needed to work on the mistakes he made. He didn't have, to me, honestly, in my opinion, in that fight, he didn't have a lot of mistakes because he didn't make Terence do different things. He got hit virtually with the same stuff over and over again. So it wasn't that was out there. It was the same mistake over and over again. He would sit there and dunk, he'd throw a jab, and he'd freeze and he'd just look at. But it's almost like those old school Mike Tyson punch out, where you fight a certain fighter and they flash. That's when you know to punch him and they freeze and anything like that. That's what Spence was doing. He was telegraphing everything. He'd punch and he'd look at him like, "This is your turn to hit me. Go and hit me." And Bud would be like, "All right, I'm gonna hit you," several times in different ways. So yeah, he needs to work on his mistakes. Get in the lab, work on that. Now I agree, but also Bomac also is that Spence cannot change his style at this point in the game. He can fine tune the way he did stuff in the past.
I don't think he needs to, though. I don't think he needs to change his game.
He don't. He don't. He just needs to fine tune and do the stuff that he did that was successful before. He didn't do nothing in this fight here. Now it's a lot that Bud did, but it's also a lot what Spence didn't do. This is not to say that in a rematch at 154, 160, or 168, wherever they fight, that Bo all of a sudden just handle business. I mean, Spence also have the business, but it can make the fight more intriguing. And you never know. Everyone has a puncher's chance in a fight, But yeah, Bomac was fine. I was fine with Bomac's answers on that. He was actually, he was still respectful in Spence, and that he got a little annoyed with Sean when Sean kind of pressed him. He's like, I'm not going to give you that information. As far as like what Spence could do better, it's like, why would I give you that? That's stupid. He's my opponent. I'm not going to give him that. Just give him a generic answer like he did. So Bomac is right about that, and I think Spence can work on his mistakes. I think Spence can be better. This is not saying Bud can be better also, because I think Bud can be better as well, because Bud didn't have to really do much in that first fight. He didn't have to get out. Bud didn't have to get out of second gear for the most part in that fight, because it really was a repeat. Every round after the fourth round is the same thing going over and over again. It wasn't nothing changing. So Bud might just change up, instead of throw he'll throw a hook or turn over a little bit instead of throwing a jab, a piston punch jab. That was the only thing Bud was doing. He was just varying it up very slightly, just to get more power on it, But yeah, Spence can definitely improve. He can definitely fix some of those mistakes. Not necessarily I'm gonna say he's gonna get the victory if he fixed all that, because we're gonna see what Bud does to adjust to that. So, but it can definitely be a better fight.
And he did give a bit of an update in regards to what's going on between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Said that they're still working on things, which is really absurd to me that they're working on anything, because technically everything should have been agreed upon right from the beginning. So this is where a lot of people feel that Terence Crawford is very difficult to deal with. And I think that's a fair assessment, because think about this, Jay. They thought that they had literally worked out everything prior to the rematch so that there would not be any challenges with actually making the rematch. You got a contract that's signed that states that there is a rematch, and you still are at a negotiating table with Terence Crawford to make the fight. How absurd is that? I have an issue with that. I don't care what anybody says. You can call me a hater if you want to. The whole point of negotiating all the terms prior to having the rematch was so that you avoided shit like this. And so exactly. for this to still be occurring, yeah, I absolutely have a problem with it. I think it's absurd, and hopefully we'll hear some about it in the very near future. And this has nothing to do with performance. I don't want to hear anybody in the comment section talking about Spence doesn't deserve this because of the performance and all this. It's in the contract. He deserves whatever's in the contract that's already been agreed upon. And the fact that this is going and taking so long is just completely absurd. You guys tell us
what, no matter who would have won too. If Spencer won, we'll still be saying the same exact thing. If she was on her foot, it would be the same exact injury from us. So it's saying an attack on Bud. It's an attack on the situation.
Well,
and Bud because he's
it's Bud because of what he's doing. You guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, M Sports Media, and we are